And welcome back to the Smart Tank Revolution, where we always kick out at 2. I am your host, the benevolent, intelligent Mr. Donnie Wonderful, aka Big Time Donnie, and we have returned with another episode of The Essentials, one of our favorite topics and one of our favorite playlists to make contributions to, as you can see with the normalcy of how often we add. And I encourage everyone to go back to the playlist, and if you haven't listened to the previous episodes, please give it a listen. And if you've already listened to them, tune in again and drop a like and a comment. We love to interact with our supporters, which is you that's listening and tuning in, and we would love to hear your varying opinions of how we rank the wrestlers. And with that being said, let me explain why we're here. If you're new here, the Essentials, this is where we rank wrestlers, past, some present. But this is where we rank wrestlers using two unique rating systems. One of them comes from Bret Hart's Autobiography, My Real Life in the Cartoon World of Wrestling, in which he ranks wrestlers he scores them between 1 to 10 using 3 different categories. And then from there, we shift over to our unique, special, beloved ranking systems, which is called the Essentials. This here is our baby. We gave birth to this, which led to the playlist, and I believe we're on the 14th or maybe 15th installment now, and there's no sign of us halting this process. This is a snowball going downhill with this playlist, and we hope you guys enjoy it because we enjoy recording it. But our playlist, our unique rating system is called the Essentials, where we model ourselves after the Bret Hart scoring ranking system, in which we also have 3 categories, but we score them more strictly between the 1 to 5. And one thing I want to say too is when reading Bret's books, or I believe it was in an interview rather, where he mentions that his are 3 categories from 1 to 10. If you score above a 20, that puts you in the upper echelon of the upper elites. So I guess with ours, if you score between anything above a 9, that would kind of do the same thing in parallel context. But let's get to why we're here. The description of both rating systems are in the description boxes if you care to read them and become abreast with them. And for this installment, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite wrestlers that I've actually very rarely discussed on this channel, and that's Sean Waltman, who is also known as the 1-2-3 Kid, also known as Syxx or Syxx-Pac, and X-Pac from Degeneration X. I've always loved this character because of where the whole origin story, as far the kayfabe origin story, I want to say. And he was an enhancement talent guy. He was the lightning kid, that got a Cinderella victory, and he became the quintessential underdog. You absolutely wanted to root for this kid. He was 19 years old, I believe, in 1993 when they worked the angle with Razor Ramon. And there's actually an interesting story about regarding the rematch to that, when it was for, I think, like $5,000 or something like that, whereas they had to get creative with the finish of it because he had slipped off the top turnbuckle and smacked his head against the floor and was concussed on live television. So I'll find that video and also leave that in the link in the description box for you guys to hear it come out of the horse's mouth himself. But Sean Waltman is a great guy. I think one of the most gratifying things lately and recently was the years that DX was honored in the Hall of Fame, and him having the time to speak, and you can tell it meant a lot to him. And like there were years where like he battled addiction. He personally he has a real resilient story of perseverance, in my opinion. I'm not going to get into it here. When you get a chance, just I guess I'll Google it, or I know he does a podcast or a radio show. You can hear it from him, but he has such a great story. One thing I will mention is his martial arts background, which also played into how he wrestled. And I'm setting all this up before we actually get into ranking him. I wanted to prepare the canvas, so to speak. You remember, 19 years old, started as an enhancement talent. And for that year, 1993, this is the birth of Raw, Monday Night Raw. Wrestling's really starting, in my opinion, to really shift into high gear as far as being a constant staple on our TV sets. It's no longer just a Saturday thing or Saturday night's main event thing. Now, we get Monday Night Wrestling, and it's carrying over to until the weekends. And by this time, the Hulk Hogans are kind of phasing out, and we're getting more workhorse wrestlers. Shawn Michaels is in his second year. About his second year as a singles. Bret Hart's in around his first title run. Couple of on the WCW side, you always had Sting, Flair still around, having good classic matches. Randy Savage is still in WWF at the time, but they're really phasing him out. He's doing more commentary than in-ring work, and Owen Hart here. Like we have a couple of workhorses, so it was an interesting time for wrestling. But let's get into ranking Sean Waltman. Okay, so as I mentioned in the intro, we're going to begin with Bret Hart's ranking system from his book, from his autobiography. I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but the Autobiography, which is a great book, it's a great read, My Real Life in the Cartoon World of Wrestling, where he scores from 1 to 10 on 3 different categories. So we're going to begin with the wrestler's look. The wrestler's look from 1 to 10. And I think that this kind of was the bread and butter for Sean Waltman, especially when he began. Because, an enhancement talent, you're not necessarily looking at their look. They're there to make the other guys look good. But, they have to be good in doing that as well. And I guess, that's going to be more so dealing with his in-ring work. But, he looked very unalarming. And the way I do it, the wrestler's look not only means, his physical appearance, but how that's also presented to us as well. Because, and promo ability is the next category, but sometimes, the promos, they don't do enough justice. Let's take, for instance, like Ryback. Ryback looks great, his promos was meh, but, so he had that good look. But then you have other guys like MJF isn't the tallest guy. He's jacked, yeah, but I don't know. Actually, that's a bad example. Come to think of it, I'm just gonna say I'm trying to justify why I'm gonna give Sean Waltman such a high rank, because the 1, 2, 3 kid again, he physically. There's nothing special there, especially then. He was 19 years old. He still has, he was skinny, slim, but, he was in shape. He has a martial arts background, and, he was agile, and his look worked for him. His physique worked for him. You know, like if he walked down the street and said, "Hey, I'm a professional wrestler," okay, you know, like all right, yeah, you know, but I think people would give that reaction. But still, because it works so well with him being the underdog, I think that he deserves to be, for in this regard, I believe he that deserves to be rewarded. He's a small guy who who was able to perform with that distinguished trait, I guess. To me, it's kind of like Allen Iverson. They call Allen Iverson one of the toughest little men in basketball, and that works for Allen Iverson. So, like that marketing title elevates Allen Iverson to me, and I think that because he was such a smaller man, especially when he began, and they ran the underdog story, the Cinderella upset over Razor Ramon. I think that that grants me the right and leniency to be lenient with how I'm going to score him here, but I think I'm still going to do it modestly. I'm going to give him a 7, and this is a great 7 because it fits him. It absolutely fits him, and I guess what I should do going forward is if their physique isn't so well, I should the remaining categories I should be able to elevate those because there's guys that can work really well. Like in the near future, I'm going to do one of these on Bam Bam Bigelow, or hell, even Yokozuna, who, like, I guess during the 505 pounders, you know, was cat-like, and both of those guys were, you know, big men that can move. So, you know, that's going to be interesting, but I'm going to stick to that 7. It's a firm 7. It's a good 7. You know, like I said, like wasn't the biggest man in the world. He was really small, slim, and skinny, and even as his career progressed, you know, he did get jacked around 1995, where, you know, he was chiseled, but he's still, you know, like a small guy. But around that time, you know, where he's wearing the bandanas and you know, when he's part of the $1 Million Corporation, like when he really started to chisel out and fill out nicely, I thought that that, you know, that justified the look for me as well. But we'll never forget when we became enamored with the 1-2-3 Kid in 1993, when he was, again, and I'll say this over and over, the ultimate underdog. And I think that you know, his look really helped that image. Yeah, so, you know, I think I'm gonna leave it there. You know, like I said, firm 7. All right, so next we're gonna go on to his promo ability. Sean Waltman was wrestling in a period where guys weren't given the scripted promos. Everything that he did, in my opinion, especially in his early years on the mic, was true and genuine. An example off the top of my head was the 1-2-3 Kid's first pay-per-view match, SummerSlam 1993 versus the IRS. The butterflies are in his stomach. You know, he's getting loose. I believe Todd Pettengill was interviewing him at the time. But if you go back and you watch that interview, to me, it reminds me of the rookie in any sport. You talk to the rookie in any sport before his first game, his first match, his first whatever. And he's openly transparent about the nervousness. And that was one of the things that helped us all gravitate to him. My buddies and all growing up, like, we were huge 1-2-3 Kid fans. And that was because of it. It was genuine. And anytime you spoke to him, he was the kid that was trying his hardest. He was the kid that climbed the mountains that you didn't expect him to climb. So even though I can't really, and I guess this is going to go more so. Oh no! No, it's not gonna blend into ours. But I'm gonna score him. I'm gonna score him in 8 on his promo abilities. He was always really genuine early, and then later, like the Attitude Era. Yeah, go ahead, put a mic in his hand. Give him the stick. Right after WrestleMania 15, that promo where he's upset at Triple H for turning on him was great. Everybody came to school saying your ass is grass and I'm gonna smoke it. That was actually the first time I ever heard that. He was always witty, not as witty as, let's say, an MJF is today, but like he was always able to deliver his promos in a fashionable way. I mean, by the time he was X-Pac was hip hop. That I would say that, yeah, like I can definitely agree with that in terms of his pizzazz and his style of like how he carried himself to a degree, his music, yes. But yeah, and also like how he was able to speak and communicate. I'm gonna stick with that. I'm gonna stick with that 8, and we're gonna go into now his in-ring work. I think he's largely underrated. Sean Waltman's in-ring work for his size was immaculate. The martial arts background, the kicks, the high kicks, the super kicks, he can do it all. The moonsaults, then were amazing. Like now, I mean, like Charlotte Flair gives Kurt Angle gives a full moonsault. I mean, I guess even now, like we're kind of desensitized to it because everybody's doing it. I mean, shoot, Young Bucks, Lucha Brothers, everybody's moonsaulting. But I mean, back then there was only a few guys that can do it, and he was one of them, and he did it believable. Whether it was a full-fledged backflip or I used to call it the side cheat, because that's what I used to do in at the swimming pool. I'm not jumping all the way back, but I give you the curve, and then I'll make it into something. But yeah, he was able to do all that well. He wrestled a real kind of a cruiserweight style, but still everything believable. You rooted for him, and he told a good story in the ring. And actually, I'm gonna stop there because I'm gonna save one for our rating system, which is coming up next. But his in-ring work, I'm also gonna give an 8. Sean Waltman can hang with anybody. Sean Waltman had the 1-2-3 Kid had great matches with Shawn Michaels back in 1995, and I believe that was during the time when it may have been babyface versus babyface. But yeah, he can really hang. He can really hang with anybody. Actually, I'm gonna mention this 1994 King of the Ring. I actually met Sean Waltman and talked to him about this match. But if you want to see a 5-minute rooting for the underdog match, watch King of the Ring 1994 second round, Sean Waltman versus Owen Hart. Phenomenal wrestling, just like AJ Styles. But yeah, that's at 8. So then, so now we're gonna go into our unique rating system, and where we score from 1 to 5, 3 categories, and we're gonna begin with the innovative effectiveness, which is the ability to work as a babyface or a heel. The babyface side really appealed to us because, again, like, who doesn't love an underdog story? The heel, however, I remember him being a heel in $1 Million Corporation, but just not. I took him serious, but like nothing would ever top his babyface runs, even as X-Pac in Degeneration X and during the Attitude Era. But he was a heel with the NWO when he was Syxx. But I mean, the NWO was like their own entity then. Hostile takeovers and all of that. So, and I didn't think that he stuck out in the NWO, but I'll give him some credit for that. But here's one of the things where I think he's high on one end and kind of average or slightly below average on the other end. So I'll keep it in the middle. So I'm gonna go 3, and I'm pretty sure that he could have been a more what's the adjective I'm working for? He could have been more of an effective heel, but sometimes you're such a good guy that no one's necessarily going to buy it. And I know he had help, but it's kind of like there's a story in Hollywood where Ed O'Neill, for all my people that are familiar with Married with Children, he was Al Bundy so long that I believe it was a play or something where they led up to who was this masked villain or something like that, and he took his mask off, and it was revealed that it was Ed O'Neill, and the crowd laughed and the crowd popped, and this was more of a serious role. I think that kind of resembles how I feel personally with Sean Waltman. I just think he's a good guy. I think he's a great guy when I met him years ago, and I think he's stronger as a babyface and a beloved babyface, and one you will always want to root for. As a heel, not so much. If he came back to wrestling today as a heel, I'm waiting for his babyface turn, so I'm gonna give him a 3. All right, so classic matches and classic rivalries. This is a good one here, and I think this is also a bread and butter here because there's some classic matches. I even gave you the 1994 King of the Ring match with Owen Hart. But there's some classic matches here that are under the radar. I want to say him and so I was gonna say him and Hakushi, but not at not at SummerSlam '95 where he jobbed out first. But even that was good wrestling. But it's not classic. So I guess like the classic match with him, everybody's going to reference this. The classic match, the first classic match to me was the Cinderella upset over Razor Ramon. And then the rematch. Like, those are classic scenarios. They made that man. It's one of the reasons why we all fell in love with him. And then, of course, the match with Bret Hart on Monday Night Raw. There's classic matches, but, like, they're just not on many pay-per-view forums. This is when you would watch Raw. Raw was only an hour, but you would watch Raw and you would get great matches. No filler. They're busting their ass in there, especially during that time, man. Like it was a really good time. The 1993, 1994, before we got crazy in 1995. With all of these like TL hoppers, no disrespect and all them, but like that was a good time. Good time for wrestling. Like classic. He did well with Mike Rotunda, IRS, but that's not a classic. Nobody's talking about it. But he has a lot of. If you have to do an omnibus on his career, you're gonna see a lot of hidden gems in there. But I'm just gonna rank him a 4. Here. Oh, I think I. Oh no, I didn't skip one. Yeah. I'm gonna rank him a 4 here, and then I guess the defining and redefining moments. Coming out after WrestleMania 14 as a member of DX, beautiful. Coming out as a member of the NWO, marvelous. the WWF at the time, Invasion of WCW, when they went to, I guess, Norfolk, Virginia. Like that's more. No, those are more like promos than anything. Again, like his defining moments. The Cinderella victories over Razor Ramon, over Scott Hall. Monday Night Raw match for the title against Bret. The Cinderella tag team with Bob Holly. Nobody expected them to win the tag belts in the Royal Rumble '95. That also helped segue Bam Bam into LT. Like he has a lot of them, man. Like I think those are defining moments. I'm gonna give him a 4 on that as well, and I think that that Sean Waltman definitely deserves his just due. I'm surprised whenever I hear wrestlers now say who they grew up watching, that a lot of them don't mention Sean Waltman, 123 Kid, Syxx, or X-Pac, because like they wrestle like him, but with more refined moves now. So, for instance, the Young Bucks, I can see if Sean Waltman wrestles today, I can see him being able to wrestle like that. You know, like or better yet, a Kenny Omega. I can see Sean Waltman having the agility and the ability to wrestle like that. You know, but only time will tell. I think that he's definitely deserving of his flowers while he can smell them. And Donnie Wonderful from the Smart Tank Revolution, I'll be here to give them to you. You know, Sean Waltman, you're a great man. I've been a fan since 1993. I remember watching Raw when I guess that was your coming out party, or you coming of age. Defeated Razor Ramon, and ever since then, man, I've been a fan. I can't help it. I gave him some pretty great scores, and I think that this one here, I don't think is debatable. You guys let me know how you feel about how I ranked Sean Waltman, a.k.a. the 123 Kid, a.k.a. Syxx, a.k.a. X-Pac. And stay tuned for the next one. I have no idea what number we're on. I have no idea who's next. But I promise you, you guys will enjoy it. Thanks for tuning in to The Essentials. We'll be right back at you with another one.